Thank you for tuning in to Growing Tech Fast, the condensed podcast in which conversations about growing SaaS startups are had with those who have grown them. Now, today I'm joined by the wonderful Brent Haldiman. Brent, it's absolutely fantastic to have you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks, Connor, for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation today, and looking forward to connecting and learning more.
Absolutely. Well, Brent has been quite the veteran in sales leadership. Variety of companies there in which you've helped grow and scale. Currently heading up the sales team and growth over a company called Pin. So, Brent, what I'm going to do is rather than myself try to rehash your pitch, I'm going to let you take it. I'm sure you'll do a much better job than me.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you, Connor, and cross the chasm between two oceans as well, which is always exciting. A little high level on myself and Pin. Pin is a marketing data company or MarTech technology organization, and we approach things with a data first look. It's rather refreshing. I've been in marketing for over 18 years and marketing technology for a long time, but for the first time we refine things with tactile discipline. And we allow you to pinpoint your company's action point. We build customizable audiences that drive revenue growth. And for the first time, we allow organizations to control the data inputs and outputs, controlling consumer data, how we talk to them and in what environments work well for their businesses. And deplatforming things like the social networks of the world, like the Facebooks and the Googles, allowing you to understand your consumer cycles, allowing you to micro-target them, and then controlling all channels as well. It's kind of what we do here on a really high level.
Absolutely. Well, sounds like you're doing some fantastic work. And I know from our conversations and following you on your journey the last few months that it's been quite an exciting time, and really want to, I guess, delve into that today, Brent. So first and foremost, for our listeners, as you were assessing opportunities, I know you were speaking to various companies at the time, weighing up, what's the best next move. Yeah. What was it about Pin? Why did you land on Pin out of all the options that were kind of open to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I guess it just comes down to the crux of like what I've learned over my career and ways I look at things when I'm joining a new organization. Are we addressing like problems in the marketplace? Because some things that are important to me is us actually solving a problem rather than me just being a really good sales guy. I actually want to build a team and a process around solving for customers' needs. So I think over my storied career, I've looked at marketing in a lot of different ways for solving problems, but there's always been this black box around it. And I've always been looking for an organization that helps us address the question marks behind that. And Pin, we allow organizations to do that. Also, secondary to that is, how do we compete against the billion-dollar organizations if I'm trying to go to market with an SMB mid-market, or maybe just don't have the wherewithal and those expertise and that suite of knowledge to go to market? Well, Pin allows you to quickly have a turnkey type solution, but most importantly, have the same technology and power sets as the big organizations out there around data. So we collect attribution pieces, around 14,000 pieces of data points against each individual within our ecosystem. And we have 1.2 billion impressions here on a global scale. So just collecting the data sets and understanding it so we can help understand the customer journey and close the loop on that cycle was just so important to me to help address the question on where did they start in the journey and where did they finish and how do we shorten that cycle? And that's the questions that we address here at Pin. That's why I joined. We can actually put actionable data points in front of a marketeer or a CMO and tell them that the data they put in and what they got out. Pretty cool that we get to answer that question.
Nice, really, really cool. Obviously, Brent, they're a product that you're 100% behind, right? Truly believe in, and I know you've got great plans around the direction that you're going to take Pin in. So I guess just for our listeners, Brent, you paint us a picture. When you arrived at Pin, what was there in terms of, I guess, commercial setup? Was there a sales team, or was there any support at all, or how did that
Zero.
work?
Just like anybody else, right? In pre-IPO SaaS startup world, my landscape was desert-esque. And there was no playing field, no value propositions, no where do we go to market, no repeatable process, no marketing engine, no, right? So how do I go to market with all these things? Yeah, it's just wherewithal and knowledge and starting to build that repeatable process. So I can understand it, find out where we can go solve for pain and sell through curiosity, and they'll develop that into a repeatable process. So that's what was here when I joined. A desert landscape with nothing in it, much like all the other pre-IPO SaaS organizations or MarTech companies or whatever you have it out there who are scrappy and going to market in this crazy time we live in.
Of course, so you've come in there, Brent, as you said, to that kind of desert-esque landscape.
Yes.
So talk to me now, kind of 5 months in,
Yeah.
where are we at and what's changed?
Yeah, so great question. What's changed? We've officially gone to market, closed a bunch of business, but most importantly, we understand our velocity to close business and how to do that. We've created a system that helps us do that. We've created everything from platforms to help us get to market, such as sequencing events. We understand that it takes 12 to 18 touch for my team to book a meeting. So how do I solve for that problem? That is a lot of work, right? Those cadences look like phone calls, emails, text messages, social selling. All those things need to come into an ecosystem where we can start to manage that process. So sequencing helps us do that. We stood up a platform to help us. Next, I got to solve the problem. How do I feed that engine and get the data, right, of people who we talk to? So I got to solve for that data set problem through leveraging our data assets like the Zoom Infos of the world. Put that up, installed something like an outreach.io. Up next, we got to build how do we overcome objectives and negatives and build value propositions, cold call scripts, overcoming all these things, cadences, KPIs. Started to develop those in our processes by leveraging past experiences. And then really took the data sets that we had and understood. We understood that previously, before joining and creating this repeatable process, sales took 88 days here at Pin. Well, we wanted to shorten that sales cycle through leveraging those things and understanding how many meetings it takes or our velocity to close business. We've actually shortened that down to about 14 days. So our velocity to close business is anywhere from 14 to 28 days. We've pretty much slashed that by a third. So those are some of the things that we've stood up. We've developed a sales pipeline from zero to about 15x of where it was. We're going to most likely hit a run rate of like 20 million in ARR in the last 4 months here. So, exciting times for us.
Absolutely. That's some incredible achievements in such a short space of time. As you said, kind of shortening down that sales process by, effectively now a third of the time, coupled with 15x in revenue, and all during, obviously it's hard to have a conversation these days, Brent, without mentioning the pandemic, but all during, economically very kind of troublesome times. Did that at all throw I guess, unique challenges your way?
Absolutely. 100%. I think on top of not only did we have to stand up all those processes, we also had to bring on a team to go to market in that marketplace as well. So think of just those moving pieces. On top of that, I have to address those in my sales conversations as well. But typically here at Pin, I compete against status quo. So status quo would be that pre-COVID world, right? And that pre-pandemic world. Well, good news for me, I compete against that all day long in my sales cycle. And we've had the opportunity to really have eye-opening conversations around competing against those things, against the traditional media sets that are out there by leveraging consumer cycle micro-targeting in my platform, by leveraging data sets and understanding attribution and my modeling through my PIT data technology and WASP systems, where we can get right down to the granular sets where I can find people with a moment of propensity in time. So it's actually been better for us. We're finding that our customers are doing better today than they were post-COVID.
Wow, awesome. So I guess it would be a stretch, though, to say in regards to COVID that you don't want it to come to an end.
I definitely want it to come to an end. I want to get my vacations back and get on planes and feel more comfortable and just get back to a bit of normalcy. I think we've learned a lot of lessons from this, but at the end of the day, sales philosophies here and within my organizations have changed. Whether that be the traditional way that we go to market, whether that's knocking on a door, which doesn't happen at these days, especially when we're doing that B2B play and the spaces that we kind of play in, automotive spaces, B2B places in big buildings where we definitely want to meet people. It's been a lot tougher. I think we all have also got some of that Zoom fatigue of being on camera all day as well. It'll be nice to get back to some normalcies. And heck, man, I want to go to a beach and enjoy the heck out of it with my sales team after we go crush 2020.
Absolutely, it sounds like you're in great shape to do that, Brent, which is good to hear. Yeah. And something that's come across so far, I think, in our conversation and even conversations we've had outside of this podcast, something you're really, really good at is building those repeatable sales processes, right? That then really allow kind of super growth. So I guess for our listeners, Brent, if you could pinpoint one thing that matters most in building a repeatable sales process, what would that be?
Starting a process, understanding things. I think when I look back on my career, the times where I wasn't successful, it's always been just not coming from a place of understanding, whether that be in my sales process cycle, a day in the life, just simply understanding that sales is pretty black and white. Either you did the job or you didn't. I picked up the phone or sent that email or did that task or did any of these, remedial things. But also, when's the last time I read a book? When's the last time I did these things? And it's just all about doing the little things to be perfect today. The biggest takeaways for me is really understanding emotional intelligence and allowing us the ability to understand that inside of our sales process and controlling those emotional conversations internally. This will help us build value. This will help us with delayed gratification. This will help us understanding our customers and our process. This will understand with my emotional management throughout my day, whether that's taking my 100 no's on my Monday and maybe getting 4 yeses on my Tuesday. All these things drill down into ourselves to create that general understanding of our own emotional intelligence. So I think those are the key takeaways. Understand that sales is really, really tough. Next, get myself the tools I need to be successful. One, general place of understanding of my own emotional intelligence and how I judge that throughout my day, week, year, month. And then how do I portray that through my conversations, my selling activities, and the day in the life through my sales process.
Awesome. I think you've touched on something there, Brent, that I know is really close to your heart and I think is super key, which is that, as you said, that emotional intelligence, right? So I think it's worth just unpacking that a bit further for our listeners. Are there any top tips in terms of managing or leveraging that emotional intelligence in sales, whether it's kind of tips you've picked up or books you've read, any good resources for our listeners? I think it is a super, super important subject.
Yeah, I think, the number one thing, if I'm doing an interview or bringing on board anybody in my team, I ask them what their most recent book was that they did read. One book that I love is Emotional Intelligence for Sales Success. I brought it out for us today. It's by Colleen Stanley. It's required reading for anybody on my team. And it really helps us understand sales success. I'm really lucky that I had a manager early in my career who invested in me and put me through that emotional process. Tips and tricks. Doubt prospects, come from a place of understanding, do the takeaways, do the hard questions, and your prospects will appreciate you for it because you're there to make a difference and you care.
Awesome. Great stuff. Well, I know there, Brent, just kind of throughout our conversation, been tracking something that's come up. Is clearly you're a guy who embraces challenges, right?
Yeah.
I think that's come through very clearly. So I guess just not just at PIN, but maybe looking back at, those years you've spent in sales, what's been perhaps, I guess, the biggest challenge you've faced, and how have you successfully overcome that?
Yeah, the biggest challenges I've faced is just, it all boils down to, I'm always gonna, and we've said it throughout this entire conversation, is not having a process. And whether that be I'm joining a new organization and I don't understand the technology, so I can't create a process, and I wasn't a good student, or I just wasn't, ready to go out and find the answers myself within an organization, branching out. So the key takeaways for me of overcoming challenges is just really coming from a place of understanding that if there is a process, what it looks like, what's broken inside of it, and addressing it immediately. If there's ever been an area where I've never been successful, it's just been not addressing a problem or a process quick enough.
Cool. Makes sense. Yeah. Process is king, or queen if you like, but we often have incentives here just based on process, actually. So we believe in it so firmly that if you're consistently doing the right things over a long period of time, and that process is a good solid process, then the results are going to be there. So that's what we
Sales
believe.
is black and white, right, Connor?
Yeah,
you either
absolutely.
did it or you didn't.
And you've even got me saying process the American way, so I'm probably going to get a lot of flack from my English compatriots for that, I imagine.
That's all right. I used to live in England, and I say maths, and I get
Math. Cool. Well, Brent, I think something that I know we've discussed and that's come through here is obviously you're clearly very big on, aside from just crushing the sales, kind of growing the team, you're very, very big on personal development. And being, guess, the best person you can be, and that comes across very strongly. So again, in a similar vein, and just I know you're a reader and so am I, are there any books out there you'd recommend to our audience? Bear in mind they can be sales leaders, they could just be folks in SaaS startups. Any good books, I guess, that can help people journey throughout their career?
Yeah, there's a few that I like if we're talking about, in the marketing space and we're trying to understand marketing conversation and the language around that, Crossing the Chasm is a great book. Like it, we could talk about FUD all day, fear, uncertainty, doubts, and all the things that we can, be compelling inside of a sales event. Where we can talk to those marketeers is always exciting for me to have a conversation around, so you can be a better SME in the room. Up next, obviously, right? So Emotional Intelligence for Sales Success. Colleen Stanley, go get the book if you haven't read it. It's on Amazon. Go get the Audible. Go for a hike. Stick it in your ears. I know I have my team here pretty much digesting a book a week. So about 2 chapters a night, especially when we're ramping, right? I think even when we look at the technology that I do here, it's all about connecting the data points. The faster that we do that, the faster that I can make money for my clients. Same goes for my sales reps. The faster I can connect my data points on being a knowledge expert inside of that room, whether that's reading that book on Crossing the Chasm to be able to have a better conversation with the CMO or marketeer, all the way down to understanding my sales process. Let's connect the data and go to market.
Absolutely. So emotional intelligence for sales success, that's the one big takeaway that everyone needs to get from this.
Please.
As well as obviously understanding the great work PIN are doing. Go and follow them, go and connect with Brent. I'm sure you'd love to follow him on his journey.
Yeah.
And all I can say is it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thanks for your, again, always openness, honesty, character that you always bring to our conversations. It's been really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time, Connor, and I wish you the best night. And thank you so much for your time today, and have a great week.
Cheers, Brent. That's all for now. Thanks, folks.
Yeah, thank you.